DNVR Rapids, we are back, baby. Downtown Duane Brown, superstar producer Yahir. I'm your host, Andre Simone. You've seen me here before. We are very excited to talk Rapids again on this here pod. It's been a minute. And obviously we gotta talk about why it's been a minute for a sec, because our guy Mitch isn't with the company anymore. And we miss him dearly. And before we move on and have some fun talking soccer in Colorado and everything that's happened since we've been gone, we wanted to give him a proper send-off.
Yeah, there is a Mitch-sized hole in DNVR Rapids.
Indeed. Probably bigger.
Yeah. It's
in the company, I would say.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. For my day-to-day, for sure. Yeah. There's a ton that we could say how important Mitch's impact has been to the show, from the original conversations of getting the show going to when it launched in full on a recurring basis with Yahir and Mitch, and Dre, and just creating this thing out of nothing for DNVR and for our Rapids community. It's not possible without Mitch's input, and just things that when I say that there's a hole, there's a hole in the excitement that Mitch brings for the Rapids.
100%. We feel it at the office.
I miss every day.
We talk Pids constantly when he was around, and you just feel that.
Yeah, and I miss having Mitch come in every day, saying something goofy, making me laugh, and then talking Pids. Just his energy to be at practices, his relationship with the club certainly has helped DNVR Rapids a ton. But just a good human being, I still get to see him. So I mean,
100%.
We talk almost daily, and we have lunch almost, every other week or so. And so I do still get to see him, but I don't get to see the dude every day. But if you're watching, Mitch, man, do I miss you, my friend. I know we still talk Pids, and we always will, but it's different without you, buddy.
Yeah, man. I think the hardest part is that, right? We love doing the show. Me and Mitch wanted to do this show for a long time. When it started, we didn't know what we were doing. Neither of us had really been on a podcast that was on a daily, almost weekly basis. And just what he brought the energy he brought, I think was the most contagious. Mm-hmm. There was days that I was so down on the Rapids, and he would come in and he'd just flip me around, and I'm I'm back on the train. I'm back in. Rapids are winning the MLS Cup. And I think that's the hardest part, right? I remember I'm back there in the producer chair, and Mitch would come in during Broncos, say, what up? Give me the rundown of what's going on in the club. And then he'd continue and just go up to Duane and follow that exact same step. And it's really hard when you miss a guy like that, when it feels like he's the heart and soul of what we created for such a long time. And it hurts. It does hurt quite a bit. And we want nothing but the best for Mitch. And we hope that he really catches a place that really lets him show off his talents and his work efforts and everything that he does, because he put in so much work for all of this, and we appreciate him so much. It was an honor to be able to work with somebody like that, because he did implement so many things that I was lacking when it came to my soccer skills, when it came to my podcasting skills. He really helped out in a lot of things, and he always took the brunt of it, never backed down, and it was a lovely thing to see him grow to be that one of the better podcast hosts in ALLCITY, in my opinion, and somebody that could really just take the reins.
Yeah, 100%. Echo those thoughts. I'm sure you guys do as well. Just a real friend, and forever appreciate what he did in starting the pod. And yeah, I mean, the thing that I think really translates the most is his passion and genuine just love and interest for it is contagious. And yeah, we will forever love the guy, support him privately, publicly. I hope he finds a way to stay in this space, because he has such a valuable perspective and voice and passion. So love you, Mitch. And then, on that note, we want to carry on this podcast. I think in this space, there are some very just criticisms of teams and the league not embracing their content creators, not giving them access or really seeing the value and what they bring to the table. That hasn't been our experience with the Colorado Rapids. Say what you will. Like any organization, business, club, they are far from perfect. But we have seen that kind of exchange and them seeing the value in us, and we appreciate that. And it'd be hard to let go of what you guys have built over the last couple years. But without Mitch, it's going to be different. Not just because we have a Mitch-sized hole in our hearts on this set, on these airwaves, but because, look, he was really the engine, and that commitment he was able to make is one we can't make. So
That's right.
We will keep this going, but it's going to be every Wednesday morning, every other week. So we're catching you up on everything we missed today. We will get ready for the season in 2 weeks. And then, believe it or not, we'll be talking actual Rapids games. I mean, it's hard to believe. This snow better thaw pretty quickly here. I wish I was at training camp with them. So if you'll give us a second to get into our feels and switch the page to talk Colorado Rapids and talk some soccer in America, we're going to go to Sam Bassett's interview from downtown Duane Brown, courtesy of the magician Ryan Green on the camera work. So check that out, and then we'll talk Sam Bassett and so much more.
Favorite Rapids fan moment?
Was it 2016, I think, when we beat LA Galaxy in the PK shootout?
Yes,
Yeah,
it was.
Tim Howard saved him. Yeah, we were there.
Do you have any pregame rituals or superstitions?
Superstition-wise, I would say it's always left cleat on, then right, then left, tie the left, then tie the right. Other than that, I feel like I am pretty superstitious, but it's just like little things of like where I put like my bracelets and like, I don't know, where I put my chapstick. It's just like little things like that.
When did the shoelace or the shoes start? Was it just like?
I think it was college.
Okay.
Because we would just have so many games like over and over, and then you just, I don't know, you're thinking about so much. Like, oh, we won this game. I played really well. I'm going to do the same things I did.
What advice do you have to young players who are in love with the game that are also trying to make it their life?
Yeah, I'd say always be the hardest worker, first one in, last one out. Me and Cole, like I said, we U15 year every single day, like tons of reps, just shooting, because we knew that's kind of what makes the money is scoring goals. That's where you get the spotlight. So I think that's where we developed our ability in front of goal. It kind of started that U15 year, and then it's just every single year we just try to go out together, especially in the off season, and kind of get those reps in. So for younger kids, I think it really is just putting in the time and work, and you know it's going to pay off eventually, as long as you have that right mentality.
Yeah. Have you looked at the schedule for the Rapids? Too much this year,
yeah.
A little bit. Is there a player outside of Miami that you really, really want to play against this year? Doesn't have to be this year. Even just over the next few seasons, what's that one player that you're really looking forward to playing against?
I mean, obviously, like Ricky Pooch, with like the numbers he put up this year and how exciting he is to watch. Maybe Evander on Portland Timbers. He was really good this year too, and he's great in front of goal and just assist-wise. It's probably those two. Maybe Acosta and FC Cincinnati. He's very fun to watch with how small he is and just the way he moves around everyone.
Right on.
Yeah.
What a good kid he seems like, that Sam Bassett. Duane, you were at Media Day. You got to talk to Sam. Seems like the club's pretty excited about him. He was kind of like the star of Media Day, the showcased big offseason move. And what were the vibes? What were your impressions? Give us the full recap.
Yeah, it was definitely Sam Day. It was Sam Bassett Day, and appearances by Cole, Georgie, Chris Armas, Brian Crookham. But the day was definitely about Sam Bassett. Everybody was trying to squeeze some time out with Sam Bassett. Those are, some of the questions that I love hearing about the ritual. One shoe, then the other shoe, and then tie one shoe, and then back to the other shoe.
You guys have that?
What's that?
I probably go right foot first, left foot second, but I don't think I'm thinking about it that much.
I'm also not a professional athlete.
I'm just starting my day with
I'm
my
a shoe on and tie, and then the other shoe on and tie. But Sam Bassett is a shoe, then tie, then tie.
I'm don't tie shoes that are already pre-tied.
I just slip them on.
Slip them on.
That's exactly right.
So that was clearly the most critical piece of information from Media Day, is how Sam Bassett puts his boots on before match. Other things that happened, talking to Chris Armas, and I think this is big. The walkaway message from Chris Armas, looking at the squad this year, moving into this year, was one word that was repeated over and over and over, and that word was build. This was a word that Chris used many times. The plan is clearly to build upon the foundation that they set forth last season in 2024. To quote Chris, definitely looking within, we like our roster. When you look at the draft, and we'll get into that, coming up in a bit, they drafted almost an entire starting 11 for R2.
Damn near.
So they're drafting youth. They're fortifying R2. That's going to be where the depth comes from for the 2025 Colorado Rapids. You look at training, they invited a lot of these guys to training. And to quote again, Chris Armas, every guy has a high-end superpower. It's why we're bringing them into training. They are truly interested in seeing, all right, we've got these guys now. What are the special skills that they bring in addition to just the all-around soccer skills, so that they can figure out where they slot in on this roster? If not for opening day as a starter, where can they fill in when depth is needed? We've got a lot of tournaments in addition to the regular season schedule. So where do these guys fit in? And that is really what the message was from Coach. So I don't expect a lot more moves to be made. It's not saying that moves won't be made, but they are clearly relying on what they created last year and using that as the building blocks to start building brick by brick to get to that trophy.
Younger, more talented was kind of the theme too. Yeah. And as AC Milan and Barca fans, we all know about big money transfers, but we've also seen how sometimes building from within through the academy is actually the best way.
Especially when you have teams like AC and Barca that are like sometimes financially strapped, even if they're big markets. For whatever reason, they're financially strapped. And that seems to always be the case with the Rapids, that they were born in the darkness with no money.
Oh my God, born in darkness.
Born in darkness.
Can we make that shirt today? Holy cow, that's a banger.
It does feel like that for a long time. And
oh my God.
I think that's the Wolves saying, isn't it?
it could.
Out of darkness
thrown
comes
at
light.
night at the dick right now.
And the best thing about this draft class and going so young, it feels like they've kind of built an academy. They kind of cheated an academy, right? There's not a lot of Colorado talent that has surpassed lately. I think Adam Beaudry is the biggest name out there from Colorado. Cole Bassett, Sam Bassett, Sam. I'm not saying there's not names out there, but finding high-level talent in Colorado is not the easiest thing to do. So when you kind of build a fake academy through a draft, that's the way it should be. because now you're able to get freshmen and they can stay in college or come over here. We talked to Porrick last year. I remember talking to him and him being like, I want these kids in here. I want them in Rapids 2. I want them in Rapids gear, and I want them getting ready. I want them to be ready for when their time is to come. They're going to be out there. They're going to have all their training, the facility, everything they need. And I think that's the most important part, that they're creating an academy. And that's my favorite part about the draft. They cheated the system by trading away all this GAM for all of Philly's round picks because they know that they are in a disadvantage being in the middle of nowhere. All these homegrown rules about where you can scout and all this are kind of iffy. So they said, how can we bring in young talent in here and have it be under our control for a long period? And they did it through the draft. You've seen them attack the draft the last 2-3 years. They've brought in guys like Kamani Stewart-Bates, Wayne Frederick, and then you have Moise Bombito, the crown jewel of the last few years.
Moise justifies this strategy alone, right?
Exactly.
But also through the history of this club, we've seen the draft always be beneficial. And yeah, it's two market inefficiencies that they're really hammering home. GAM. Yeah. I mean, just the GAM king. Everything they did this offseason is just GAM, 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 GAM. Would you like some more GAM? Stuffing GAM down other teams' throats. And then the super draft. Like, that is clearly, they see that as a market inefficiency, and they are going to hammer that home to no end. And then on top of that, you have the additional benefit of Sam Bassett probably would have been a top pick, but you're able to add him without having to use GAM and draft picks on him. So it's just a bonus pick on top of everything else.
It's kind of, they cheated the system, and they did a great, and that's one thing I respect about Crookham and Porrick. They know how to cheat the system. They know how to work around it, and they're experts at it. You have teams like Austin and Philly who just kind of throw everything away for GAM, and you saw the Rapids take advantage of it.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, where the Rapids are going to flourish. And it's right now as a Rapids fan, you're looking at it and you're like, what do I care? We're probably not going to see the fruit of these moves until like 2 or 3 years down the road. But you are building for 2-3 years down the road, especially the way the MLS is moving with transfers and so many players are being moved out of this league. You need to have that young base. So when it is time to sell one of your top players like Cole, Georgie, or Stefan, you have somebody right behind that you trust and that you've kind of put in through the system, right?
You have a 2026 theory on all this, Duane. Is that an unfair theory only? We don't have to.
Back into the darkness.
It is where they were born.
But like, there's a long-term view to this whole thing, right?
2026, and this is a tinfoil hat time with Duane.
Yeah, right.
I need to build a tinfoil hat, put it on for this little segment, is that 2026, 2027 to me is a very critical time in Rapids history. We haven't seen it yet, but a lot of things happen in 2026. Like contracts expire, naming rights for Dick's Sporting Goods Park expire, World Cup happens where we assume with it being on home soil that hopefully American interest in soccer will skyrocket. We will have a new women's team in town. A lot of things are going to crescendo in 2026, and that can be a really, really great thing for the Rapids if that's what they're all building to kind of hit that peak of American interest in soccer with what we're building towards.
I mean,
maybe there's a new name. With new name becomes new money into the stadium. Hey, maybe we finally get a new Jumbotron.
Rebrand.
So, dingy old signs get replaced with clean, fresh new signs. There's so much
not the craziest
happening
theory.
in
It's really not the
2026.
craziest
It's also, they'll have competition in town for the first time ever when it comes to soccer in 2026.
Yes.
It's great.
Denver FC,
Great
like,
point, guys.
You can lose a lot of Rapids fans if the women's team is very good, very interesting, and has an ownership that is saying we're in it to win it, and we're putting money into the players and everything else. So 2026 is huge, I think. I really do.
And look, and I see, the comments are rightfully skeptical about the more talented part. That was my reaction most of the offseason. When I go move by move, though, first and foremost, you're counting on the young core keeping on improving, keeping on finding their legs and their chemistry. And, it was year one under a new head coach. Secondly, do we want to go draft or do we want to go the Cincy backline?
I think Cincy backline, and then we kind of move into the draft. Because I think it kind of balances out at the end of the day.
Yeah, on paper, those are upgrades to what you had at least the second half of the season once Bombi left.
Yep. And they might even be upgrades to the first half, honestly, to some extent. And it's nothing against Bombi, but we saw when Bombi was out there, he loved to push so high up that I left Maxu back there by himself sometimes. And that's when goals were created, because even though he had that lightning speed that he could track back, sometimes he couldn't because he was so far up, and by the time the play already developed, there was already a goal in net. So I think having a guy like Chido come in here who does have some of that speed but also has that playmaking ability from the back. If you haven't seen that assist against, I think, the Galaxy back in like August from his own half, like, it's an incredible assist, and that's the kind of thing that Chido brings into this club. He brings in that veteran experience. He's played all over Europe in Nantes. He's played in Porto. He was one of those wonder kids that come from Nigeria that people hype up. And sometimes they just don't develop, right? We've seen it in the U.S. But that doesn't mean they don't have talent. It just means that it didn't work for them in the grand level.
Yeah, no. And Murphy has 31 appearances last season. So, I mean, they're both pretty seasoned, pretty veteran. Chido's, at the peak of his value when he was going to Porto was like a 7 million transfer fee. So, I mean, yeah, he's far from some rookie that doesn't know how to play in that back line. And I think with more of that 4-man D, you need two center backs you can really trust.
Yeah, and I think talking to Armis at Media Day, one thing that he harped on, I got some alone time with him to ask some questions about next season. One thing that he hit on very hard is this idea of the defense being more aggressive. To quote him, the fear of failure equals failure. And he felt last year they were way too passive on defense. Giving up 60 goals is passive. It's not great. So he was really, really high on getting more aggressive. And I think when you look at Chido, when you look at his stats, his progressive passes are really, really high. And I think he slots into that vision that Armis has for a more aggressive defense.
Yeah, no, and he brings some physicality, he brings some veteran know-how. With Maxu, he's going to be dangerous on free kicks and corner kicks and stuff. And then what excites me, what I had the biggest questions about, is the on-ball stuff. And you guys have done your research. And I mean, if he checks off that box, we're cooking.
Yeah, and defensively, he's not the most in-your-face defender. He's not a guy that's going to put in the tackle and take the ball away from you.
Yep.
But the perfect thing about him is, which I preach all the time, is positioning. You don't have to be a guy that's going to be in your face one-on-one. You just got to know where to be at the right moment. And that's where he really thrives.
Yeah.
He's a guy that he sees the play developing 2-3 seconds before anybody else. He's going to put himself in the right spot at the right time, and he's going to jump that pass. He's going to be in your way. He's not going to let the player make that free run behind you. And that's, I think, where the Rapids sometimes struggled a lot, especially in the wing positions. So if you have a guy like that in your back line that can help a Keegan, a Sam, a Reggie, that's how you're going to make this defense better, by having a smart defender back there that doesn't need to put all his talent and abilities on display for it to make it a simple play, right?
Yeah, no, I think... So there you go. I think people maybe wanted some upgrades on...
offense,
the
wings.
Yeah, the wings. Well, even Sam
wings,
Vines. I like Sam Vines getting, it's Sam's time to step up, right? I think there were some times last season he was not as exciting as we hoped, but he's being given a second chance. Maxu, maybe there were rumors he had a foot out the door. He's staying, and I think, at the end you didn't downgrade from what you had last year. you're staying the same or upgrading with the new additions.
Yeah.
Now offense though, because Yaya and I were geeking out before we even went on air. Alex Harris and Sam Bassett are the big additions offensively. Alyssa, we could bring up that graphic of the formation too. Kind of Georgie was the one guy missing a backup. And now I think Sam slots in perfectly there.
Yep.
Yeah, more offensive than Cole.
Definitely. And I don't think it's because of want, because Cole wants to be that 10. He says he's always a 10. But Sam just has something to him that he has a better field vision.
Yeah.
He knows he's a
Yes.
ball hawk.
Yes.
Like, to put it in football terms, like American football terms, he's a ball hawk. He knows where the ball's going to be at, and he's looking for that at all times. Kind of like Georgie. When Georgie has the ball,
Yep.
the defense kind of backs up because he knows that he can create. And that's the best thing about Sam.
He's that advanced playmaker up top as a 10. Yeah.
And he's not afraid to make that dangerous pass. He's not afraid to take that shot.
Yeah.
24 goals, 22 assists in 77 appearances for DU. It's nothing to scoff at when DU is a premier soccer school. They don't have a
100%.
football team, so they focus a lot on hockey and soccer. And Sam was the best out of that crew. They took him. He basically willed them to that national championship. Like if it were like, what was it, semifinals or national championship? Like
Semis.
he wheeled him there by just wanting him more than anybody. And he was willing to be super creative. And I think his pinpoint passing is something that they're missing in that backup position. And I think that's what's going to help him the most.
100%.
Georgie went out with injury last year, and you saw the effect.
Yep.
You saw that the team couldn't run as it did in the past. And having them up there, I think just creates such a different dynamic where you can even do a double 10
Yes.
in theory. Like
Do a little Christmas tree, the 4-3-2-1.
Exactly.
It's a beautiful, beautiful formation.
Especially when you do have a guy like Simon Ronan in the back who are willing to push up, but are also willing to do the dirty work. And Ronan, that was his biggest criticism before last year. Last year, he proved he could do it. So now I'm willing to put him back there in a single pivot if it has to, and put two 10s up there. And I think it's going to be goal galore if those two guys
100%.
can actually connect and get that same relationship going.
Well said. Yeah, he was really the offensive hub for that DU team that was spectacular. Two more guys there. Two of their defensive outside backs got drafted as well. What I love is that the Pios were playing a 4-2-3-1 with him as the 10.
Yep.
So it's going to be easy to play in that same role, similar formation. And then, he really likes shooting it from the outside. You add a free kick taker and a corner taker. That's really dangerous. And I think he could also work as a left winger as well. Where right now, if we look at our depth chart, Cabral, Omir, okay. Like, I think maybe there could be an opportunity to upgrade. He loves coming in from left and then swinging it right, doing that Giovinco, the tiragiro is what we call it in Italian. Insigne has that. Del Piero is the one who, so he's a really classy 10. He gets it with space. He's finding that pass or he's taking a shot from the outside. He's dangerous. He's exciting. He loves to run into space. And I can see why the club is so hyped about this guy, Duaner.
For sure. The storyline is great.
Foot.
The skills are there. It's just time to sit back and watch and see what happens. The great thing is, the Rapids don't have to rush him in. Obviously, with Georgie Mihailovic, that position's locked in.
Yeah.
And we are lucky to have him.
No doubt. No doubt.
So I think the excitement will be there to be able to watch Sam and Cole play together. They played a preseason match the other day. We've got our first Super Bass Bros, Cole to Sam goal already in their first game, finally playing together. So, I mean, there's a lot of excitement, great storyline to be able to watch this year with him. And the great thing is it's not just a storyline. He's got the skills to make an impact.
Yeah,
at
100%.
that position.
And kind of bringing it back to that left winger kind of thing, he reminds me a little bit of Omir. He has that thing. He's a little bit more, a better Omir, and not to knock Omir. That's still my guy. That's still my dude. But he does have a little bit of that. He can play the 10. He can play the wing. He can move around that front. And that's exactly what the Rapids like to do, right? The Rapids never stay in formation when they're in attack. They like to spread out, and it's a lot of interchanging roles as they go. And I think that's something that Sam is really, really going to love and adapt to. And it's the perfect thing for him. It's fluid. It's nothing where he's constrained to one spot. With that right foot, like, he can move around. He can swing it in from the right side into the box. He can go to the left and curl in and hit it the top right corner. You've seen it do it multiple times.
Yeah. No, the fit is really ideal. The circumstances and the setting you're putting him in, just with his brother being here, like, it's really a kid is being brought into pro soccer and being put in as good a situation as you possibly could to set him up for success.
Sure. Yeah.
Then, it's that transition is as hard as any, so you'll have to see what comes of it. In the Western Conference, they're adding goals left and right. Jesus is back. All sorts of big-time strikers. Austin made a ton of moves. I mean, left and right. The Pids go out and get themselves Alex Harris with the 4th overall pick. He looks 15 in his pictures. He's just a sophomore, so he's like 19, 20, right? Cornell kid, won Ivy Player of the Year, scored double-digit goals his 2 years at Cornell. Natural goal scorer, natural 9. This was a really interesting Generation Adidas pickup. Dwayne, let's start with you. What was the buzz about Alex, if any, and what gets you excited about the what could you call him? A happy little kid, the boyish killer,
The boyish killer is insane. He doesn't kill boys. He's just like has boyish looks.
That's exactly right.
The Wunderkid. Yeah, I mean, as a longtime Rapids fan, it's not just me. I think it's all of us. We all yearn for a striker for the Colorado Rapids.
Everyone in world football yearns for a striker. Yeah.
I think the Colorado Rapids fans,
as much
if not more,
agreed.
yearn for a just lights out, crush everyone, devastating striker. We almost got to the season record for goals last year. That's it, and it's only 16. It's only 16 goals. There were 6 other players last year for other teams that did that. Yep. And I think that kind of encapsulates like what we all yearn for. We've got Hoffa up top. We saw a major growth last year from 2023. Yappy got his first goal, but we're still wanting to see more from him.
Come on,
because we are all
this is
Yappy
the year,
guys.
baby.
Like,
come on,
everybody's
Yappy.
all in on Yappy Hour. Like, everybody wants to be at Yappy Hour so bad.
Yeah.
And the cool thing is, like, now we've got a third. So again, those tournaments are happening. If the Rapids if we all learned one lesson watching the Rapids last year, we've all said it in the chat. We've said it here on the show. We've said it on social media. It's depth. Depth. The Rapids really, really fell apart at the end of the season with 6 straight losses. And it's because the guys were gassed. If Harris is a striker that, translates that college success to the pro level, maybe he jumps above Yappy.
What I like is we just talked about the options of playing with 2 10s. I think Harris, more so than Hoffa and Yappy, doesn't have to be the top target striker and could play in a 2-man attack, right?
Do a 2 up top.
So all of a sudden, the last 15 minutes of a game, you need to switch it up. Let's play with 2 up top. And I think as a second striker, he works really well. He's another guy who can maybe moonlight as a left winger. He's not. He can dribble. He's got some on-ball ability, but this is just a guy runs into space, one touch. That first touch is really good, and then left or right, he bangs them in. Like, this is a penalty kicker. He just has that striker's ability to feel the goal. Like, it doesn't matter where I am. I know how far the goal is from me. I'm gonna one touch this, turn around and bang it in, or I'm gonna poach it in and just get the ugliest little touch to push it in. Some way, somehow, he's going to find it. He's not a big, imposing. It's not Connor Casey. No one's going to mistake him for that. He's not more of a deep line striker and can do the Rubio and play a 10. He's your second striker, fast, run on it, bang in goals.
And that's kind of how I look at him. Second striker, I think, would be perfect for him. If you put him at a 2 up top, I think that's how he works best because he does have that ability. I think he's a different prototype than what Rafa and Yappy are.
For sure.
They're the, how you said, they're the big imposing. He has a little bit of that, and guys, don't take this with a grain of salt. He plays a little bit like Harry Kane. He can play that false 9 almost. He can almost drop into space, find the right spot, and then just run and get to the next spot immediately. And that's what the Rapids are missing. They're missing a guy that is willing to drop back, create for the next guy, and then go find the goal and the next play. And that's exactly where I think Alex Harris is going to thrive the most. Next to Yappy, next to Harris, next to Yappy, next to Rafa, somebody that can take that pressure away from him, and that speed's killer, man. He's gonna get behind those back lines with Cabral and Calvin on the edges. Like, it's gonna be an easy path for him to just find it between the center backs. When you're overloading them with 4 guys in the front, and maybe even Georgie pushing so much high up, it's easy for him to weave in and out. He can get lost because he's not this big dude. He's not the guy that's gonna come in and you're just going to have to be looking for him in every header, but he'll find his spot, and that's exactly what you need. He has like that poacher ability too, which is the most important thing that the Rapids have been missing. They don't have anybody that just touches the ball and it goes into goal. Yeah. Rafa has to work for his goals heavily. Yappy does too, and this guy feels like it's effortless. He touches the ball and it's a goal.
And I think that's important that you bring up is that his ability to get in and get those garbage goals, and kind of clean up. One of Rafa's like greatest strengths is that he can do everything. Like he's such an irritant when he's up front that he can draw those center backs' attention to him, which would allow somebody like Harris, who can be kind of shifty and zip in there and kind of, whether it's a goofy pass to kind of finish it off, or just what we all want is just somebody to just take the damn shot. And I think Harris is the guy who's actually, he's going to pull the trigger and he's going to take the shot.
Yeah, 100%. So he's exciting. Getting him in the 4 slot, I think, was a great pick. Yeah. I wonder if they would have been happy to just take Matthew C now if Harris doesn't quote unquote drop to the 4 spot, because they take him 6th overall. Just again, like Gam. You take that Gam. You take that Oprah.
Gam. You get Gam. You get Gam.
We shall do as we please in this super draft. You will take our Gam and shut up. But yeah, we're hyped about this kid from Xavier, 6'4", 218, big boy.
Dude's a linebacker in the NFL.
Yeah, 100%.
Dude is like massive. When we were talking about him right before the show, I compared him to a mix of Max Su to Bombi.
Yes, which I love.
That's that great body kind of dude that's just going to get in your way. But the on-ball skill is something that you're shocked to see from a guy that big. Somebody that's super agile and super quick. We don't know. We saw it somewhere.
Right.
Top speed was 21, which is
21 miles per hour.
Yep. That's insane if it's true.
At 218? Yeah, 220 pounds? That's crazy speed,
That's
man.
insane. Like, my biggest thing is on-ball skill. The Rapids really struggled with that the last couple of years. Max, who made some huge errors, couldn't track back because of errant passes. Same thing with Lawless. Bombi felt like the only guy that could have the ball at his feet and be a good passer going forward. And I think having a guy like Chido to learn from, who is incredible at that, and Max, who has improved as well as the year went on last year, I think it's really going to benefit a guy like that to learn under those two. Because Max is going to teach him the physicality of that game, while Chido's going to teach him, hey, this is how you pinpoint a pass. This is how you find this guy on the other side. And that guy just gets me hyped. It's so hard, I know, as a Rapids fan, to not look at this dude and think Bombi. Like, he might not be, and we were talking about it before the show. Me and Dre were talking about it. This guy might not get you that $8 million tag that that Bombi did. But it's also not out of the question if he did one day. And it's not super crazy. Or it's not crazy if he turns into your Walker Zimmerman and is just the backbone of your back line for the next 10 years. And it's set and forget. You have him in there.
It's a high upside center back who I do think has the skills to, again, maybe it's not go to France on a high transfer fee, but be a borderline all-star center back in this league. And I mean, geez, you get that for 125K in GAM? Like all day, every day.
And under team control for a long time.
Yep, 100%. And they freed up a spot with him with Nate Jones going on loan. You know, a high pick of last year's super draft. So that's interesting. I know you're really concerned about the depth in the back line. This kid could be a wild card, similar to how Bombi was a couple years ago.
Sure. Because of the draft, because of him, like my fear of depth on the back line is not as panicked as it was at the end of the season. I feel pretty good about the back line. We don't know.
I think we're also still programmed to think of it as a 3-man back line.
Yes.
You know, so it's like, God, we don't have enough for our 3-man back line. It's no, buddy.
We got plenty.
And they still have Daniel Chacon, which I'm really high on.
Yeah. And
I'm a Chacon guy, so
Yeah.
I'm all the way in on that kid too.
Yep.
could be his year this year too. I mean, maybe this is the breakout year. We've talked about that already, you know.
Yep.
Yeah, it doesn't
The year of
stop there
Chacon.
though. You're excited about some other guys.
Oh, my next guy. This is the guy that I'm like really hyped about. It's Aurora. This
12th
dude,
overall pick, University
Yep.
of Portland. They get him for $75K in GAM to Austin FC.
Yep. And the best thing about this kid is he's never panicked. No moment ever seems too big for him. He gets the ball and he kind of just walks around the field. He's like Cam Ward. If you guys watch college football, he grabs the ball and he just kind of looks around and it's like, oh, okay. Like nobody's. He has a guy right in front of him and he just stands there waiting for the play to develop. Pinpoint passing. It's the one thing that I love about him too. The way he can find the exact bounce for the player for nobody else to touch it but his guy. It's incredible. Now he is a little bit smaller.
You gave me an N'Golo Conte comp, which stylistically seems like a good one to just give you an idea, you know?
Yeah, and he's not huge, but the way that and he gets pushed off the ball sometimes, so he has to work on that physicality. But he's shown that he's willing to get physical when he wants to. If somebody's pressuring him, he will throw in the body. It's more the willingness to do it more often. And that kid just gets me so hyped. Like, again, it's something that Ronan and Bassett and Ollie don't have. Those are guys that grab the ball and go.
Yeah.
With Aurora, he kind of takes his time, finds the right play. He's never in a hurry to make the perfect pass. And 99% of the time, he will make that perfect pass. It's such a good time to be a Rapids fan. If you're like in 2-3 years, if this guy develops the way he will, I think the way he can, the dude is just a baller, in my opinion.
The type of 6 we've kind of wanted for a while.
Exactly. And like defensively, again, positioning. He's always at the right place at the right time.
100%. Big Mitch. Up the fucking Pids, my man. Anyone else before we move to NWSL?
Matthew. I can't say his last name, so don't make me. Matthew Uthwagne, I think I want to say.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow.
That's a hard name to say. But he's a winger. He has a
Matthew
lot
Van Horn, dog?
No, maybe? I thought it was something with the U. Let me check. But regardless, that's the guy that I'm really excited about as well. Oh, Wathuta. Yeah.
Okay.
That guy...
Sydney Wahuta, the forward.
Yeah,
Yes.
that. He's a winger, man. But again, he's another one of those guys that reminds me a little bit of Calvin Harris. Has a lot of speed, but he has a little bit more on-ball skill. If you see his highlights, the first play you'll watch, the first play they put, it's him nutmegging a guy, and the defender just grabbing his shirt and pulling it over his head as the play is still developing. Because this dude is like, I'm not catching up to him. He has that ball skill. He's really good in those open spaces, and I think that's where the Rapids are lacking, open space. Having a guy like him being able to develop again under only 20, sophomore from University of
Got
Vermont,
some young guys.
I think he'll be really good. He contributed to 2 goals his freshman year, and his last year he had 14 assists, which broke the Vermont record, the school record. The guy just finds spaces too. Like that's another guy that you have to keep an eye out on. If him and Kamani Stewart-Baines can be your guys of the future, you're cooking, baby. Like you have 2 guys that could actually become something in the forward position.
Yeah, I'm excited about KSB in year 2 as well.
Me too.
I was seeing a lot in the chat, and then there's a question about Alex Harris being able to play winger. I think he could play on the left side. He's another guy who likes to kind of come out to the left and swing in and use that right foot to bend
Feels
one.
like the Rapids only get guys that can play the left side.
Yeah, man. So got to leave that
Omir,
right spot
Cabral,
open
Calvin.
for Calvin. NWSL wish list. There's a lot we don't know. What
We'll
we
find
do
out
know is
more
a team is
soon.
coming.
Yep.
How would you prioritize what you want most out of this new club? What is on your wish list? You could start us off, Duane.
Vince's the most excited about this.
I am over the moon excited that we are getting an NWSL team.
I mean, it's awesome. And it's also, you know, in world soccer, if you want to see a true, like, world-class club in an American city, right now, that path is only provided through the NWSL.
Yep.
And I think that's really cool and maybe something we're not talking about enough.
Sure. I don't know how you would not know this about me. My top one priority is branding. Like, I need this club to have a great name and a good look. Like, the logo needs to be great. It needs to make sense. I don't want it to be lazy. That I'm most excited about that. They nail that, I'm good with everything else.
Yeah.
We live in a
It's going to be
state that
electric when they release the
produces-
logo.
Yeah, it just if we can just get that, because we live in a state that produces superstar women,
Yeah.
like just superstars.
Yes.
And I know, like, at least one really wants to come back to Colorado, and Lindsay Horan, like, she wants to be back.
Right stage of her
she's-
career, too.
Yes, and she has been very upfront saying, I would like to play back home in Colorado. And then you've got other superstars out there that I would love to see.
Sophia Smith?
That's my favorite player.
Sophia Smith
would
would
love
be
seeing Sophia
unreal.
Smith here.
You could probably field an all-star team of women just from
Oh
this
my gosh,
Colorado
it would be
team.
crazy. It would be crazy. But yeah, it's all branding for me at this point, because that's what sets the tone for this club. Is how seriously do they take the branding? Do they let people who know how to do branding do it, or is it just going to be a bunch of execs sitting around kind of messing things up? So that's number one for me. Then obviously it's the players. Crash is mentioning the youth development. I have a daughter who plays, so I'm excited about all those things. Plus more soccer. And we'll learn more January 30th. There's an open event. I'll be there to learn more about it. I know the chat was talking about where's the stadium going to be. Some people have heard Rhino. I've heard Western Stock Show area, but who knows? You know, this is
That's
just
almost
all-
Rhino, though. That's like right
Yeah,
in
I
the
mean,
Rhino area.
it's close. So I don't know that all of those questions will be answered, but I'll be there. We'll have a show right after that, and we'll get into that more as well. But for me, it's all branding.
Makes sense.
At this
Yeah.
Makes sense. For me, it's all the players. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I know.
It's all the players. Yeah. Give me like one of those superstar Colorado natives. That'd be incredible. I mean, Lindsay leaving, you know, the state as a teenager, basically, to go play high-end
European soccer.
women's soccer in Europe at Lyon, right? This whole time.
Yep.
And I mean, she has to make that move because the NWSL doesn't exist then.
Yeah.
There is no elite league in the States, and now that's all changed. So it would just be incredible to see her come in. I mean, and then, I mean, having someone like Sophia would be just unreal.
Honestly, like, you guys are right, but I'm the rightest, and it's stadium.
Yeah.
It has to be.
Yeah.
To me, that's the way you build hype around this and make it a feasible thing for the future. How do you get people that have never enjoyed soccer in Colorado, have never looked at it as a top sport in Colorado, is by having a cool place where that you can kind of go, have fun. Dick's Sporting Goods, it's really far away. You have to have the stadium in a central spot. And I think that's going to be not just for the women's team, but for the Rapids. It's going to push it. It's going to tell them, like, we need a place where soccer fans can go and have a good time. And this is how it's done. And to me, the stadium is going to be the coolest part, because whether they're good or bad, you see it with the Rockies. If it's a summertime event where you can go have a good time and watch a professional sport, it's going to grow the game regardless whether they're good or not.
They're going to get such a massive new team bump,
Yes.
too.
Exactly.
By the way, these were the three
like
most
the first-
obvious answers that has ever happened on this show. Like, if you had asked me,
Also
I would
put
say
them as suggestions in the rundown.
players,
as an
logo,
example.
location, like for sure.
well,
great.
if we go a little bit in depth, I want Jordan Angeli to be the face of this team.
Yeah, and I mean she's playing a huge role
Exactly.
in the development
So
of making this happen.
I want Jordan Angeli to be up front and in front of everything, because she's done such a great job of promoting soccer in the U.S. and Colorado. And she's done a great job of bringing everybody into this world of women's soccer in Colorado. A couple years ago when this came out, we had her on the show, we asked her. She's like, well, there's been a few talks here and there. Kind of broke the news a little bit on our, not too much, but she kind of gave a hint. And I just want her to, almost feels dumb to say, but kind of fulfill what feels like her destiny of being the spokesperson for soccer in Colorado. We have so much talent here and so much soccer love that it feels like it's going to waste. And having Jordan be the face of it and be willing to put herself in front of all of this, I think it's going to be the best part about this team. And that's what I'm looking forward to the most, how she handles all this pressure of being the spokesperson for women's soccer in a state that loves soccer.
They check off all those boxes. We're cooking with gas.
Yep.
Dude,
Straight up.
I've never been a season ticket holder for any team. Will immediately sign up for the women's team.
Wow.
Same.
I love that. Quick game. Off-season moves.
Yep. Hit it.
One biggest winner, one biggest loser.
And just the West or all the way through?
No, Pids specific.
Pids.
Oh.
It could be a guy who's staying.
Oh, okay.
It could be a new addition. It could be the organization. You could go any route you want.
Biggest winner to me is Crookham. I think he has a squad to really work with, and I think the way he's developed Rapids 2, I think once again Rapids 2 will be the powerhouse it was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And I think his name is going to start ringing around soccer world a lot more if thing goes the way I think it does. I know he's not just solely in charge of Rapids 2 anymore, that he has other responsibilities. He got a promotion, but in all honesty, he's still the guy down there. And I think he's going to be the biggest winner with this draft class coming in and kind of creating, between him and Porrick, creating this kind of like fake academy. And I keep calling that because that's what it feels like. And I think he's going to come out on top if these guys develop.
I like that.
Biggest winner for me is Kamani Stewart-Baines. I think with the exit of Jonathan Lewis and not bringing in, what we thought was going to be like massive winger help, KSB is someone who showed flashes of potential last year in the few minutes that he got. And I think this is a year that maybe he surprises some people coming in out of nowhere, kind of in the way we saw Ali Laraz do last year. Like, we know he's got skills, but we didn't really get to see it until he got minutes. And I think with the wings, with the extra tournaments, you're going to see all these guys play. I think Kamani Stewart-Baines is going to really have a chance.
I like that. I really hope that's the case too. I think there's a lot of guys you could say like Sammy Vines or Yappy, guys who haven't had competition that maybe you would expect to have come in. I think it's Chido though.
Yeah.
Like he's just being handed a crucial starting spot on this team and a really big opportunity in Colorado without a ton of fanfare, without having like the pressure of a DP spot, right? Like it's just the perfect, in this Armis system, like he is the most perfect, semi-star to add in the island of misfit toys. Like it's just perfect. Losers?
The biggest loser to me is Nate Jones.
Yeah.
That's my dude. To this day,
Yeah.
I'm gonna stand on that. I'm gonna die
Yep.
on this hill. But bringing in a guy like Cheeto, Ian Murphy, re-signing Michael Edwards, and then you still have Chacon that people are in love with. He just had a horrible injury last year.
Well,
that
drafting
sideline.
now, yeah.
It feels like he's the odd man out, right? Right now, it feels like he's looking outside from the outside in. I still think he has a lot of talent. I'm kind of hoping that this move is not because the talent in the MLS Next Pro is lower than he should be playing at, and he needs to play at a higher level, but he's just not ready for the MLS. But right now, it feels like he's the biggest loser with all the defensive additions and not giving him the reins, kind of like they did with Bombi. When they kind of knew Bombi was the guy, they threw him right into the fire. They're like, "You're our starter, my guy. Like, go out there and see what you can do for us." And it felt like Nate should have been on that same track. Feels like he's kind of backed up a little bit. So it has to be Nate Jones. I feel for my guy, and hopefully he does really well in the lights and he proves all of us wrong.
That was going to be mine, so I'm shifting quickly.
You're welcome.
You threw a Maxu out for me yesterday out there.
Yeah, I thought maybe Maxu as well. There's just, ironically, we have so much depth, so many pieces that can play on the back line after complaining about depth last year. It could be Maxu. He's someone who there were a lot of rumors about wanting to move off. If he does, I think then he's the big winner because he's going to get a bunch of money, right? If he, especially goes over to a Saudi team or something like that, then that flips immediately and awesome. Like he gets his bag and we're all happy for him. In the meantime, it's, if he's trying to get his way out or if people were just coming to ask for him, we don't know. But, the Rapids at some point have to say, well, if opportunities are being explored, do we play somebody else and get them really dialed into the system, whether it's, Murphy or whoever, one of the new kids, who are we going to get into that spot to make sure that they are secure if something does happen and Maxu does leave? So I don't know if that hurts Maxu's minutes, but I guess maybe that's the one I would say.
I like it. I think that Cabral Omir spot is kind of a loser and under fire. I think obviously the Rapids were able to add a few more options. And as we talked about, while it's not Alex Harris or Cole Bassett's natural role, those guys could be slotted in. And I just think like those guys had much more clearly established spots last year where you were kind of tied to like starting one of them. And now I think you've got a few more options and they're under, they're going to have some more competition, which like ultimately, the winners and losers, it's just a fun conversation point. Like I think all these guys are in really like compared to most other professional soccer players around the world, they're in about as good a spot with the Rapids and the type of opportunity and belief that's being put in them as you possibly could. But yeah, that would be my pick right there.
Makes sense. I'm all in.
Totally.
Okay, guys, this was lovely. Love you, Mitch. Thank you all for coming in the comments. Leave us a thumbs up. And in a couple weeks, we will see you Wednesday morning again to do this all over. Big thanks to Alyssa Marie, our legendary producer, for taking the time and making this all happen. And big shout out to you guys for continuing to support and coming in the chat. We really appreciate it, and we wouldn't be doing it if not for that. So lots of love to you. Lots of love to you guys. And catch you next time.
Up.
We all silly like the mayor.